A 6% pay award. Well, I wasn't expecting that, and with over 3,200 votes, most of you seem pretty happy too. Hey everyone, and welcome to The Savvy Squaddy. In this video, I'm going to go through some of the highlights of the Armed Forces Pay Review Body's 2024 report, and hopefully clear up any confusion some of you might have. So, John Healey, who is the Secretary of State for Defence, said in his statement that we will be accepting in full the 2024 pay award recommendations made by the Independent Armed Forces Pay Review Body. In that report, which is close to 150 pages, they made 23 recommendations. I will not be covering every single one in this video. A link is below to the full report should you wish to read it. A summary of the recommendations is at the start of the report. However, in this video, I'll be covering just the main points. Speaking of which, let's get stuck in with the main pay award. Their recommendation was that rates of base pay will increase by 6% for members of our remit group at pay point OR204 and above from the 1st of April 2024. This has caused a bit of confusion, so let me explain. OR2 is a private or equivalent across the services. The 04 is in reference to the increment level the private is on, so everyone from a private on increment level 4 to a brigadier, which is an OF6, will receive a pay award of 6%. But what about the OR2s who are on increment levels 1, 2 and 3? Well, those on increment level 1 will receive no pay rise, and those on 2 and 3 will receive a small one. So why is that? Back in April of this year, it was decided that the most junior personnel would receive a pay rise in order to keep in line with the national living wage, which had also increased. An OR201 received a pay rise of 7.25%, bringing them up to an annual salary of £25,200. Then for OR2s on increment levels 2 and 3, they received a pay rise in April of 3.7%, bringing their annual salary to £25,300. The reason these two increment levels are paid the same is because it is seen that it takes 2 years for someone to fully understand their role within the rank and gain the experience needed. You'll notice that the first two increment levels of most ranks are the same for this reason. It's not something unique to OR2s. Anyway, those privates on increment levels 2 and 3 will receive a smaller pay rise of 2.3% to bring them in line with the 6% increase, which raises their salary to £25,864. So a simple answer as to why the most junior soldiers aren't receiving a full 6% now when the rest of us are, is because they received their pay rise in April when the rest of us didn't. This is something that does not happen often and was pushed through quickly so those at the most junior levels would not miss out on the increase to the national living wage. Then a recommendation which I was not expecting but I'm happy to see is the increase to the initial pay for those in their first 6 months. Normally this encompasses phase 1 and most of phase 2. Before this increase, the initial pay was at £18,687. That's not a lot and absolutely affects recruitment. So the AFPRB recommended, and the government has agreed, to increase the initial pay to £25,200, which is around £1,800 a month after tax. And this, along with the other pay recommendations, will be backdated to the 1st of April 2024. Now, let's talk about Backpay. We will not see this pay award until the end of September. That pay slip will be quite big for many people, especially those who are still in training or have not long passed out. Screw Millionaires Weekend, the Harrogate lot are going to have Billionaires Weekend. I mean, as a side note, there are very few jobs out there where a 16-17-year-old can walk into and be paid £1,800 a month after tax. For them lot, that's practically pocket money, pure disposable income. Any junior soldiers watching this, please don't go too crazy. Small decisions you make now will pay dividends in the future. Because OR2 increment level 1 have had their pay rise, they will not receive any back pay. OR2s on increment levels 2 and 3 will receive a small one. This back pay will of course be reduced by the tax that you would have paid had the pay award for all of us been on time back in April, and it will also be reduced by accommodation charges which have also increased, which I will cover in a bit. Now, to be honest, I was quite surprised at this pay award. I was even more surprised that it came in higher than other public sectors. After all, our pension is non-contributory, meaning we as employees do not pay into it. This is factored into our pay award recommendation. The other public sector employees have to pay part of their salary into their pension, which is one of the reasons why often their pay awards are higher than ours. But I think this speaks volumes to why these recommendations have been made. Recruitment and retention have been a driving factor. That phrase alone is mentioned 37 times in the document, and that doesn't include the numerous times they are used individually. This is something they are taking seriously. Something else to add, many people will also increase in increment level this year or even be promoted. So when that is also taken into account, many of your salaries will increase more than 6% this year. For me, I'm going from £37,668 a year to £42,510 with my promotion to sergeant. That's a 12.85% pay increase. That's an extra £290 per month after tax. Not too shabby. Moving on, if you're part of the Defence Medical Services, the Special Forces, Submariners, Defence Aircrew, Defence Engineering, Special Intelligence, MPGS, then please refer to Chapter 4 of the report for some information and recommendations on how things will be changing for you in the future. When it comes to RRPs, or Recruitment and Retention Payments, they are all increasing by 6% except for Special Intelligence. And again, this will also be backdated to the 1st of April 2024. If you are curious of the rates, then check out Appendix 2 of the report, they are all there. The Volunteer Reserves Training Bounty is also increasing by 6% in line with the main pay award. This is for those in the reserves that complete their annual training obligation. Recommendation 19 states that all rates of compensatory allowances should increase by 6% from the 1st of April 2024. Examples of these are LSA, Unpleasant Work and Living Allowance, Recruitment and Retention Allowance for London, and a few others. All the new rates can be found at Appendix 2 of the report. For those that ask, LOA is not a compensatory allowance, it is a contributory allowance, so this increase does not apply to LOA. So those are the increases that will put more money in your pocket. Now what about the ones which will claw some of those gains back? Well, starting off with the daily food charge that has remained frozen this year at £5.61p a day. But this only applies to those in Phase 1 training, some Phase 2 places, and any units which do not have pay-as-you-dine facilities. When it comes to accommodation, garages and carports has increased by 6%, however there will be no increase to those that are substandard. Furniture rental has also increased by 2.4% for all SFA types. Both of these of course are backdated to the 1st of April 24. When it comes to single living accommodation or SLA, the rental charges are increasing, but the amount is different depending on the grade of SLA you are in. Grade 1 is seeing a 6% increase, Grade 2 is 4%, Grade 3 is 2%, and Grade 4 will see no increase. If you are unsure of what grade you are in, it should be at the bottom of your payslip. And finally, Service Families Accommodation or SFA will also increase, and the amount will vary depending on what CAS band they are in. For those on CAS band A, which are houses of a higher standard, sort of like Grade 1 for SLA, they are increasing by 6%. The lower bands are affected differently as they are set in descending increments of 10% of the band A rate. Unfortunately, I don't have nor can I find a simple table of up-to-date accommodation costs that are publicly available. If you are not sure of what band you are on, just like those in SLA, check the bottom of your payslip. These are also of course being backdated to the 1st of April 2024. So the back pay will be a bit less than you expected should you live in SFA or SLA, but not by huge amounts. I also want to quickly address some basic principles of maths. A 6% rise in accommodation does not mean it cancels out a 6% increase to your salary. As a super basic example to help explain this, if my accommodation costs £100, then a 6% increase would see a rise of £6. If my pay is £1,000, then a 6% increase would see a rise of £60. If I take that £6 rise in accommodation off of the £60 increase in my pay, I am still better off by £54. Hopefully that helps explain that even with the increased costs in accommodation, it does not wipe out the pay award. If you see someone suggesting this, please educate them. What I will say though, OR2s on increment level 1, 2 and 3 who might not receive any back pay or a small amount in September could find that they are taking less home that month due to the backdate of the accommodation increase. So just keep that in mind. This is an unfortunate consequence of the pay awards not happening at the same time due to the delay. For those receiving some juicy back pay in September, don't spunk it all up the wall. By all means enjoy some of it, but also put some of it to use. Perhaps you have some debt you can pay off. That would free up a monthly outgoing and save on interest payments. Maybe you are saving for a house, sticking a few £100 in a lifetime ISA would then give you a 25% return from the government. However, rules do apply. Check out my video on ISAs to learn more. Perhaps you want to voluntarily contribute to your Armed Forces pension via added pension, or maybe invest a good portion of it into an index fund via stocks and shares ISA. I've actually compared whether or not you should invest over buying added pension. I'll link that video below. Regardless of what you choose, don't waste it all. And just because your pay has increased doesn't mean your lifestyle needs to increase with it. If you are living comfortably at your current wage, then put away any extra. The more you can, the more you will benefit from the power of compounding. I have a bunch of videos on this channel that will help you make informed financial decisions. If you're curious as to what your new salary is, then check out the tables at the end of the AFPRB report, or check out my post on Instagram. Are you happy with the pay award? What will you be doing with your back pay? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. If you liked what you just saw, please hit the subscribe button up there, and if you want to see some more videos, click over there. See you soon.